Catherine Connolly.
Minister, can you clarify the arrangement between the Office of Public Works in Caranua? What contract, if any, or what arrangement has been entered into, and the details of it and the value of it? I think you're fully aware of the controversy over Caranua taking on a rent obligation that wasn't there before. They were set up in January 2013. And they did not pay rent until recently. So can you clarify that situation? Thanks.
Deputy, the Commissioner of Public Works advised that the agreement in place with Caranua for its current accommodation in Frederick Court, Dublin 1 is an administrative arrangement by way of a simple exchange of letters between the Commissioner of Public Works and Caranua. It details a rent contribution of €106,000 per annum with a commencement date of the 1st of June of 2016. As the lease on the Frederick Court building expired in 2016, the Commissioner of Public Works are disposing of the property and in discussions with Caranua regarding their accommodation needs into the future, offering Caranua space in newly leased premises off Talbot Street, also in Dublin 1. This was another option for Caranua, given that it had carried out its own research for alternative accommodation. Caranua confirmed its acceptance of this space to the Commissioners, and the arrangement is again by way of an exchange of letters. The due proportion of rent to be paid by Caranua amounts to €188,589.55 plus VAT per annum. This increased rent arises from the provision of a larger area of accommodation to Caranua.
Just in relation to that, Minister, can you clarify why they have to pay rent when they moved into the leased premises by the Office of Public Works? And can you clarify that the Office of Public Works are leasing that existing building? What are they paying for that? And that Caranua were in there without paying rent for 3 years and a month, without ever paying rent. What has changed that has now obliged them to pay rent? And furthermore, is that Talbot Street premises, the premises that was identified a number of years ago, that was refurbished in part by funds from the Caranua funds, and they didn't move in at that time? Thank you.
The one question I can't answer for you, Deputy, is in relation to what is the arrangement, and I think you asked me this question, between the OPW and the current building. So I don't have that information, but I will find it for you. In relation to the other question that you asked me, the Department of Education and Skills replied to a parliamentary question on the 9th of May 2017, addressed the responsibilities of Caranua as an independent statutory body, and in particular the procurement of its accommodation and the meeting of any related expenses. The reply made clear that Caranua is an independent statutory body and therefore would be expected to procure its own accommodation and meet any related expenses. Section 30 of the Residential Institution Statutory Fund Act of 2012 provides that all expenses incurred by Caranua under the Act shall, subject to the approval of the Board, be charged on an investment account to the benefit of Caranua. So that is why they are expected to meet their own accommodation and the rent in relation to it. In relation to your other question regarding the role of the OPW, their remit is to provide accommodation for central government, and there are several agencies outside that remit that recoup rent to the OPW for space that is provided for them. This relates in many cases back to the legislation under which an agency was established, in that there was provision made for the agency to fund its own property requirements. And the question you've asked to me in relation to the Talbot Street accommodation, I'll find that information for the Deputy and make it available to you.
Deputy Connolly.
Clarify that aspect, but the question I'm asking that you're ignoring, maybe not deliberately, but we really have gone around in circles. There are other TDs here with questions similar to mine, such as the concern about Caranua moving into a rented premises. I think the figure that we got was 272,000 to include VAT year after year. My question is, why is the legislation and the specific section that you mentioned being cited now when it wasn't used since the establishment in January 13, March 13 forward? They were never charged any rent. What has changed that they have been charged rent now, particularly when the fund is dwindling, number one. Number two, no business case has ever been put forward, even though the Department of Education and the board itself asked for a business case. And thirdly, the number of applicants has dwindled down to a couple of hundred in 2016, so why do they need bigger accommodation? Thank you.
Well, I'm not ignoring your question, Deputy, nor I am attempting to. You asked me a question here in relation to the rental agreement between Caranua and the Commissioner of Public Works, and I provided all the information that is available to you on it. In relation to why they're being asked to pay rent, I mean, this is a matter between the board of Caranua and the Office of Public Works. But I mean, if the Office of Public Works are providing accommodation for agencies that are not central government departments, there is an expectation that rent be paid. But I will see if through the OPW, the other questions that you've put to me, if I can find the answer to them, and I'm sure I will, and I will make them available to the Deputy. But the question that you put to me, Deputy, I have answered.